CJ, Kyle, and Dan, and it's opening week, gentlemen. And CJ, there's an ebb and flow. Start of spring training, everyone's excited, and then the last couple weeks are like, we're just inventing stuff now. We don't have to do that anymore.
We do not. Games are finally going to get underway, and you're absolutely right about spring training, right? Because the winter just seems so long. Even if your team went to Game 7 of the World Series, the winter just goes really, really slow. And then spring training starts to drag. You get all excited, and like you said, I'd put that number at probably 2 or 3 weeks where guys are kind of ready to get out of there and get the season started. But it's here. It's finally here. Some teams are banged up. The Blue Jays are not immune to that. That's the unfortunate part, right? You're just trying to get through spring training healthy. Not everybody's been able to do that, but we'll get real games starting Wednesday with that solo Netflix game, which is new for MLB this year.
CJ, the Blue Jays offseason, a lot of news generation for a team that was only moments from winning a World Series. And it seems as though it came to a conclusion this morning when they announced the re-signing of general manager Ross Atkins for 5 years and, of course, coach John Schneider for 2 years. Any surprises there?
The only thing I would say on John Schneider is love to have seen him get maybe another year on there, right? It's not uncommon to see 3-year contracts for managers. Craig Counsell got 5 years is technically a free agent when he left the Brewers and went to the Chicago Cubs. A year ago, we were having the conversation that there was a lot of pressure on both him and Ross Atkins and this front office. And of course, they had the monster season. So it's good to see them get it done. I think it also is a nice little gentle reminder of don't panic all the time as far as what's going on with your manager and your front office, right? It's a matter of guys ultimately performing, guys staying healthy and maybe catching those few breaks along the way. So that's the only thing that maybe caught my attention a little bit. It was a great offseason for the Blue Jays, and I think we all knew the front office was going to get taken care of. John Schneider absolutely deserves this. And you'll love this little side note, or maybe you won't, but I'm going to tell you anyway. My daughter is a grad student at the University of Georgia, and she also is a TA, which is a teacher assistant for freshmen, and Ross Atkins' daughter is in her class. So that was a nice little connection for her that she made this past winter. So we're very happy for them. He deserves it. Again, it was a great winter.
Turns out all you have to do is listen to DJ Khaled when he said, all I do is win. If you win, you get contract extensions because everyone was calling for Atkins' head. I included in the bunch. Before last season, people said, okay, the experiment's over. We're done with this. And now he's got a 5-year extension.
And I do think for ownership, as you try to evaluate things, you got to be very careful because there is a lot of noise from us as fans, even those that are covering the game and know it, that you got to be careful not to listen too much of it. I do think it does happen sometimes. It's really important, in my opinion, that when you're an owner or you're whoever your point man is with your ownership group, that they almost have like an outside consultant on these things. When you're sitting there really trying to evaluate what is happening with your front office, are they doing things well, getting a couple of different opinions? Because yes, wins and losses are kind of the bottom line, but you got to evaluate the process as well. And it's difficult to do. And even though we're passionate about the game, we're not even the best ones necessarily to give you that evaluation. So I think that part is critical, but you're absolutely right. I mean, you sit there and you got to look at things and look at the process. I think as fans, we're only looking at players. Hey, where'd you spend money? Why are you not spending more money? Well, you have some limitations on what you do based on what your ownership is willing to give up. So that's a really big part of it. Now, did you make some bad signs? Did you make some bad trades? Try to reevaluate those trades. All of that stuff really has to be kind of brought under the microscope, but it could be a challenge. But this year, obviously, was a big one. Certainly was a big one from a revenue standpoint for the organization as well. And I think those guys deserve to be there. They got good baseball men in the front office in Toronto.
Isn't DJ Khaled one of your neighbors? He's Atlanta, right?
He is. I don't know. It's hard to keep up, man. This is the place to be. I mean, this is where it's been at. Everyone coming down south. I did it, 20-something years ago and started out in New York and did a little Texas, and now I get the best of both worlds here in Atlanta.
And it seems as though some of the work by Atkins in the offseason has really, set them up nicely for dealing with this situation going into the season with 3 big arms on the IL to start. Of course, you Savage, Berrios, and Bieber, but they did push for depth, and it's going to either pay off or not immediately.
Yeah, and again, you saw it on the other side, right, with the World Series with the Dodgers and how deep they were with the starting pitching. I think the Scherzer thing probably was kind of like the biggest surprise that kind of fell in your lap, right? That was a big one for the Blue Jays. And it goes back to as you're sitting here and evaluating, I know we've talked about it a ton, but evaluating what the front office has done, and that is making sure that Toronto is a destination, right? That was a big part of this as well. And you can't really, can't put wins and losses on it. There's not a metric to tell you that you have a good atmosphere and a good environment that's welcoming to players. But when Max Scherzer wants to come back to your environment, I think in your culture, that is a really good sign. It's a testament to what they've done. It's a testament to what John Schneider has done and how he leads that team, right? So you have that part of it where guys want to come back or at least want to be in Toronto. Of course, you got to have some money to be able to spend, and they were able to do that as well. I mean, Eric Lauer at one point was looked at as a guy that was not going to have an opportunity to start in this rotation. You mentioned those injuries now, and Trey Savage being one of them as well, that all of a sudden opportunities open up. And that's why you keep guys around. Even though you have a guy that feels like he wants to start, he could be headed to free agency next year, doesn't want to be in the bullpen, doesn't want to be a swingman because he knows it's going to cut into his value. And while you want to do right by people, ultimately you got to do right by your team. And that's why you keep those guys in the organization. That's why you keep your depth, because injuries are going to pop up. They happen all the time. So that injury depth has been tested early on, but yet they're still in a pretty good position with this opening day rotation.
Max Scherzer must give a lot of guys false hope. They're like, he's 41. I can play till I can play into my 40s.
Yeah, and they shouldn't believe that because, of course, that I mean, he's an anomaly, right? Him and Justin Verlander and what they can still do at their age. I mean, you see what's going on around the league and how good pitchers are getting hurt young. The idea of having longevity and figuring that part out and doing it well it's pretty impressive to watch, especially outside of the PED era. I think there was a time where you could cut some corners and maybe you could extend your career. That's not an easy thing to do. You really can't do it anymore. It takes a special kind of player. The spring training that Max Scherzer has had has been pretty incredible to see how well he has thrown. I didn't see that coming. I saw when he signed, it's okay, maybe he can help you out in the middle of April. And that's underestimating Max Scherzer and his drive and what's most important to him and how he goes about it. So it's been really impressive. But this day and age, especially because guys are going harder, quicker, every single pitch right out of the gate, we're not going to see very many guys being effective in their 40s if they get there at all.
Seems as though to me, CJ, you've forgotten about Atlanta Braves legend Julio Franco, who was stealing bases well into middle age. I watched a YouTube documentary about him yesterday. My God, I think he's still playing somewhere in Ireland or something right now.
And he's in better shape than all of us.
He's in better shape than all of us combined. Absolutely. Okay, so big offseason move. Kazuma Okamoto comes to the Blue Jays. What are realistic expectations for this guy stepping into this role on a team with already such a complete roster?
So I think he's raised them, actually, right? There was a question mark there with him, and what does it look like, just like we have with every other player that comes over from Japan, whether they're a pitcher, whether they're a position player, what is that going to look like? But I think what we've seen so far in spring from him and how he has played throughout, you can expect a lot. I think you can expect some of that power to show up. And we always have, kind of, okay, what percentage will it be down? Again, whether it's a pitcher or position player, there's probably going to be an effect. And the big one for him is seeing high velocity with the consistency in which he is seeing it, right? That is always a big adjustment for hitters coming over from Asia. While they do have some really good pitchers, they just don't run nearly as deep as we do here in the States. Of course, we've got players from all over the world here in the United States. And so you get big arms that you don't get day in and day out in Japan. That'll be the big one for me. And I think so far, so good on the way that he has adjusted to velocity. His ability to get to that pitch at the top of the zone is really important, and recognizing when it's out of the zone and laying off of it, because he's going to get a much bigger, steadier diet of those going forward. But I think based on what we've seen here with the swings, the results that he has had early on, that the expectations can be high. I think you can expect some of that power to play. He seems like he's been really open. Put me where you want to put me, right? He's taken that kind of right attitude, not necessarily I'm a guy who's done one thing one way my entire career, and it can only be like that when I come over to a team in MLB. He's been everything that you've asked him more. So I've been pleasantly surprised with how good he has been, and I think you'd expect a big year out of him.
Can we backtrack a second? How are your stats against Julio Franco?
It's a great question. I don't know them off the top of my head. I played with him. He was a teammate of mine in Atlanta, and I think he was like 40-something then, in unbelievable shape. And he continued to play what seemed like another decade. And like Kyle said, all over the world, wherever they would take him, he would continue to do it. So I'd have to go look him up. I don't know how often I faced him, but I did get to spend some time with him with the Braves in that clubhouse. He is an amazing human being, and he does a really nice job unintentionally of making you feel bad about yourself.
He had the high elbow stance, correct?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Real unique stance, really high hands. And just his chest was popping out of his uniform.
What's with the love for the Yankees? Jays are third in betting odds to win the AL pennant behind the Yankees and Mariners. What am I missing here?
So the thing I think with the Yankees is going to be the expectation that their rotation will be healthy, right? Once they get it back, and they're not there to start the season, right? So they got to get there first. But Carlos Rodon, Max Fried, Garrett Cole as 1, 2, 3. Like if they're right, that is going to be a really tough group to contend with. Now I'm with you. The Blue Jays are right there with them. I don't necessarily put one ahead of the other. I think it is between those two for this division. I think it's probably between those two for the American League and who represents the American League in the World Series. But I think for odds makers, I think that's what they look at. I think the bottom of the Yankees order certainly has some question marks. They got to figure out what's going to happen at shortstop and third base. Quite honestly, they have legitimate questions there. But this is about, I believe, starting pitching for them. Their bullpen has got question marks too. And I know the Blue Jays maybe have some of their concerns. I think the Blue Jays have a better pen when healthy. And obviously that means getting Trey Savage back. That Blue Jays rotation can compete with them as well. So I think it's probably more about the track records of the top starting pitchers in that rotation right now for the Yankees is why the odds makers have maybe given them a little bit of an edge.
And I think I read that they're going with a four-man rotation to start because their schedule is a little weird. They have a lot of off days early on or something like that. And their own Trey Savage down there, Cam Schlittler, he kind of had that very short run towards the end of last year, but showed the same sort of level of brilliance. Can it be expected for him to kind of continue that into this season?
I think so. I think what's important is that you look at stuff, right? When you see a guy that kind of lights the world on fire for a short amount of time, and like you said, you could put Trey Savage, I think, in that category as well, and you start to wonder about sustainability. Is this real, or is it that guys haven't gotten a really good look at him? They don't know how to adjust, and you could be in for that sophomore slump for both of them. And I think it's fair to put them in the same category. The stuff tells you, no, that should play as long as you're healthy, as long as you continue to remain consistent. It's not as if there's a problem with what they have kind of in the tool belt. And going back to that four-man rotation, what we mentioned at the very top, you can thank Netflix for that. Right? The idea that they're playing on Wednesday spaces things out for them. They're the only team, them and the Giants are the only two that are playing on Wednesday. So that creates some earlier off days. I will tell you that we have the opposite here in Atlanta. It's 13 straight games to start the season with no off days. And they just had another starting pitcher go down. And Spencer Strider after they've already had a couple early on. So they're trying to scramble to figure out who's going to be their fifth starter at a time when they were considering a six-man rotation. But it's just the way the schedule worked out for the Yankees. So at least early on, and they're probably happy to do it because of the question marks that they have kind of at the back end. They brought in Ryan Weathers with the Yankees, and he hasn't had a great spring, even though he has a big arm. But I think it's more about scheduling and that Netflix game that actually worked in the Yankees' favor.
Not to be confused with David Weathers.
His dad.
His dad?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah,
CJ, my favorite part about opening week and opening day in baseball is everyone starts with zeros. There's zeros down the board. As a player, it must be the same mindset. You're like, we're all starting. Anything is possible.
There's so much optimism. You're absolutely right. And it's a good thing to have, even though sometimes you may see it as misguided as we look at a team that we believe is going to struggle, right? Or players that we know who they are and the odds of them having a big year is maybe not great. Have that optimism. That's the way it should be. I had a really good habit of putting myself in a hole early in the season. Seemed like those first couple of weeks would always go sideways, and I'd just be working the rest of the way to try to get it down and hopefully get it to normal before we got there. But there is real optimism, and there should be. I mean, it's fun, man. Like you get down to spring training, regardless of where your organization is, you only have a small amount of time to play this game as a player. I think for fans, obviously, we're here every year. But for these guys that have the uniform on, you got to be that way. I mean, you go in even a little pessimistic or concerned about how your year is going to go or where you are from a talent standpoint. It's not going to last very long. So I'm with you. Spring optimism is the greatest for at least a day. The Rockies and the White Sox are tied in first place in their division.
And then if you hit an opening day home run, you're like, I could hit 100 this year.
So Tuffy Rhodes, if you remember that name, hit 3 1 year with the Chicago Cubs. He had a very short major league career. He ended up dominating in Japan. He was an unbelievable home run hitter. I think he spent about 12 seasons in Japan, which is odd for a foreign player, but he was one of the best to do it. But he had 3 home runs on opening day. Had to be probably mid-90s, somewhere in there for the Chicago Cubs. And he probably felt pretty good about where that thing was headed and didn't necessarily work out that way. He had to find another place to do it. But you're absolutely right. Do something big on opening day. Do the opposite for a lot of different things that I did over my career. Do most of it opposite. Get yourself off to a good start so you have some margin for error when things go sideways.
CJ, before we let you go, let's move it to optimism. Can you share a favorite personal opening day memory from your career?
So get all excited about, the pomp and circumstance that surrounds opening day. I guess I got one. I'll tell you one from an entertainment standpoint. Tony did the national anthem. We opened up in San Francisco one time. Still my favorite anthem I think I ever heard. They crushed it. And then I made a team in Houston in 1998, like really down to the very last day that they were deciding. And so I make the team. I find out the day before opening day. My pitching coach comes to me. I'm the last man in the bullpen, right? I just barely make the team. He said, listen, we got Shane Reynolds and Mike Hampton going in games 1 and 2. These are two really good established starters. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and throw a bullpen before the game, because you're probably not going to pitch today. You're probably not going to pitch tomorrow. So let's make sure we get your work in now. So, okay, I'm just following along. It was my first year in the bullpen. I throw a bullpen, kind of blow it out a little bit in game 1. And sure enough, we go extra innings, and I end up pitching in that game and taking a loss on opening day. So that was pretty awesome. That was great guidance from my pitching coach that landed me an L.
And it's a feel-good story for sure. If you don't get that reference, then you're probably not old enough to understand who Tony is in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, man, it was so good. Such a great anthem.
Thanks, buddy. Let's have a great week.
Let's go. See you guys.